often talk about the pathetic state of journalism in the U.S., and there's nothing better than getting that claim validated from one of the most renowned reporters in the world, Seymour Hersh, a man so ballsy and controversial that Republicans have deemed him the closest thing American journalism has to a terrorist. See, last week he had some explosive words to say to students at City University in London about the abysmal failure of the Fourth Estate. In comments published by The Guardian, Hersh lambasted the mainstream media for its strict compliance with the Obama administration narrative. He suggested that the only solution is to fire 90% of current editors across the country, effectively shutting down the entire corporate media apparatus. But Hersh didn't stop there. He also chastised journalists for wholeheartedly accepting the rationale of national security for every single foreign policy decision in a post-9/11 world. He also pointed to drone warfare as a prime example of journalists towing the line by asking, quote, "How does Obama get away with the drone program? What's the intelligence? Why don't we find out how good or bad the policy is? Why do newspapers constantly cite the 2 or 3 groups that monitor drone killings? Why don't we do our own work?" Great questions, Seymour. I often ask myself why we're faced with this false dichotomy of either troops on the ground or hellfire missiles raining down on civilian populations. As we know, drones have a 98% failure rate at catching high-level targets and cause enormous resentment among targeted populations. But instead of hearing this debate in the media, you'll just hear that drones are a necessary component of the war on terror. The media's coverage of Obama's drone war exemplifies how difficult it has become to challenge this administration compared to Bush's term. In fact, Hersh called out reporters for becoming stenographers that would rather work to re-elect the president than to challenge his authority. He goes on to say that our job is to go beyond the debate and find out who's right and who's wrong about the issues. That doesn't happen enough. The New York Times still has investigative journalists, but they do much more of carrying water for the president than I ever thought they would. See, Hersh has every right to call out the New York Times, considering how he used to be a reporter for this respected institution. And that's just one line on his exemplary resume. Over the course of his journalism career, Hersh has repeatedly shattered the political status quo to uncover the lies, distortions, and cover-ups perpetrated by the U.S. government. He's exposed everything from the murder of hundreds of Vietnamese civilians during the My Lai massacre to shedding light on the Abu Ghraib torture scandal. It's fair to say that he's devoted his entire career to defying corporate media's propensity to act as an echo chamber for the powerful, which is maybe why we should heed his daring claim that challenges the official bin Laden death narrative. According to Hersh, nothing's been done about that story. It's one big lie. Not a word of it is true. In fact, Hersh has put his journalism career on hold to release a book on national security and is devoting an entire chapter to the historical revisionism of the bin Laden killing. I have to say, hearing this claim from such an established journalist gives me peace of mind that I'm not insane, because up until now, questioning this story has become almost sacrilegious. I'm glad others are unsatisfied with the utter lack of evidence and closure regarding the Osama bin Laden death tale. You see, Seymour's words have a recurring theme in them. Being a corporate media outsider is the only way to have journalistic integrity. These words are especially powerful given the current debate on Capitol Hill, which is desperately trying to define what a journalist is instead of what the act of journalism means. No matter how Congress comes to define the term, one thing is clear: the dinosaurs of corporate press are dying a long, slow death. So the mainstream media can either heed Hersh's advice, shut down 90% of its bureaus and start all over again, or they can continue pushing government-sponsored propaganda and drive itself into irrelevancy. But until that happens, the renaissance of alternative media will continue to grow and build upon the collapsed rubble of the Fourth Estate.